Get back. Most relationships don't end because of a lack of love. They end because of toxic patterns we don't even notice. It's not the big betrayals that kill love first. It's the small daily habits that quietly destroy trust, intimacy, and connection. Today, back. I'm going to expose 3 silent killers of relationships that might already be happening in your life right now. And once you see them, you can never unsee them. Welcome to Connected Souls. I'm Leila Hormozi, here to help you heal, grow, and thrive in love. Communication is the lifeline of every relationship, and when it breaks down, love begins to suffocate quietly. Words left unsaid turn into unspoken walls that separate hearts, and silence becomes louder than any argument. Many people think that avoiding tough conversations protects the bond, but in reality, it creates distance that slowly pushes partners apart. When emotions are buried, they resurface later as resentment, often stronger than before. The absence of honest dialogue leaves room for doubt, insecurity, and assumptions to take control. A relationship thrives not on perfection, but on the courage to speak and listen with openness. When silence dominates, connection weakens until it feels like strangers are living under the same roof. Without communication, small misunderstandings grow into large gaps that feel impossible to close. Love does not die suddenly. It fades quietly in the spaces where words were never spoken. Every relationship starts with conversations full of curiosity, laughter, and deep exchange, but over time, many lose that rhythm. Busy schedules, stress, or fear of conflict cause people to withhold what they truly feel. Instead of saying, "This hurt me," they stay quiet. Instead of asking, "Do you feel loved?" they assume the answer is yes. But silence is never neutral. It is always interpreted by the other person, often in ways that are more painful than the truth. When someone doesn't hear reassurance, they assume they are unloved. When they don't hear honesty, they assume betrayal or indifference. Words left unspoken leave space for imagination, and the human mind rarely imagines in a kind way. Without consistent dialogue, even love that once felt unshakable begins to lose its foundation. The fear of vulnerability often lies at the heart of this silence. People hesitate to speak openly because they are afraid of being judged, rejected, or misunderstood, but vulnerability is the birthplace of intimacy, and without it, relationships remain surface level. Holding back emotions may feel safer, but it creates a false version of the relationship, one where truth is hidden and only fragments of reality are shared. Over time, the partner on the other side feels disconnected, sensing that something is missing but not knowing what it is. This invisible barrier creates loneliness even when both people are physically present. When truth is replaced with silence, the bond weakens until it no longer feels authentic. A relationship cannot survive without the oxygen of real communication. Listening is as important as speaking, and often the breakdown happens because partners hear but do not listen. True listening means putting aside the urge to defend, correct, or respond quickly. It means entering the other person's world with empathy, trying to feel what they feel instead of focusing only on your perspective. When someone feels genuinely heard, they feel valued and understood, even if the issue itself is not yet resolved. But when listening is absent, every conversation turns into a debate rather than a dialogue. Arguments become about winning instead of understanding, and that slowly erodes emotional safety. In the absence of deep listening, words lose their power to connect, and silence once again takes control. Unspoken expectations are another silent destroyer. Many people assume their partner should know what they want or how they feel without ever communicating it clearly. This creates endless disappointment because no one can read another person's mind. When needs are not expressed, they remain unmet, and unmet needs turn into bitterness. Over time, one begins to feel unloved not because the partner doesn't care, but because the partner was never told how to show love in the right way. Clarity is kindness, and expressing expectations directly prevents small issues from turning into heavy emotional burdens. A relationship grows stronger when both partners are willing to articulate their needs with honesty and patience. Another layer of silent destruction comes from conflict avoidance. Many believe that avoiding arguments means maintaining peace, but in truth, it only delays the storm. Suppressed frustrations don't disappear, they accumulate until they explode in ways that are far more damaging. Healthy relationships are not free from conflict. They are built on the ability to handle conflict constructively. Speaking up when something hurts, even if uncomfortable, is far healthier than swallowing pain day after day. Silence may keep the surface calm, but beneath it, emotions churn and slowly erode trust. Facing the discomfort of hard conversations prevents the long-term damage caused by emotional withdrawal. Emotional intimacy is nurtured through everyday conversations, not just grand declarations. It's built when partners share their fears, dreams, and vulnerabilities without fear of judgment. When communication disappears, so does intimacy, leaving behind only routine and obligation. Two people may continue to live together, share responsibilities, or even laugh occasionally, but the deep emotional bond that makes love feel alive begins to fade. Communication is the thread that weaves closeness back. And without it, love unravels one unspoken word at a time. Every missed opportunity to connect becomes a brick in the wall that separates hearts. Technology has made communication easier, but connection harder. Many couples spend hours scrolling on their phones while barely exchanging meaningful words with each other. Presence is replaced by distraction, Back, and attention is divided among countless digital conversations instead of the one that matters most. True communication requires undivided attention, eye contact, and emotional presence. Back, not just words sent through a screen. When partners fail to create sacred spaces for real dialogue, the relationship begins to feel empty, no matter how much time is spent together. It is not the number of words spoken that matters, but the depth of connection those words create. The cost of poor communication shows up in the smallest ways. Resentful silences at the dinner table, unanswered questions lingering in the air, or smiles that no longer reach the eyes. Each moment of unspoken truth chips away at trust and creates emotional distance. Over time, back, one or both partners begin to wonder why the relationship feels heavy, why the spark has dimmed, and why love no longer feels the same. Often the answer lies not in lack of love, but in lack of words. Back, relationships are living entities, and communication is their heartbeat. Without it, even the strongest love stories risk fading into emptiness. Back. The good news is that communication can always be rebuilt if there is willingness. It begins with small steps, asking meaningful questions, listening without interruption, and expressing feelings without accusation. That requires patience, courage, and a commitment to honesty even when the truth feels uncomfortable. Every word spoken with authenticity breathes life back into the relationship. Back. Every moment of listening without judgment restores safety and trust. Love does not demand perfect communication, but it does demand consistent effort. Back. The willingness to speak and to hear one another is what keeps a relationship alive, vibrant, and unbreakable. Comparison is one of the quietest yet most destructive poisons that seeps into relationships. Back. When one partner constantly measures the other against someone else, it sends a painful message. You are not enough. Whether it's comparing careers, appearance, habits, or achievements, back, the effect is always the same. It diminishes love and creates insecurity. Gratitude is replaced with dissatisfaction, and appreciation turns into criticism. Instead of celebrating uniqueness, back, one begins to crave a different version of their partner. But love cannot thrive in an atmosphere of constant measurement because comparison breeds resentment. Every relationship is unique, back, and trying to fit it into someone else's mold only weakens the bond. The moment comparison enters, joy begins to leave. Control is another toxin that suffocates relationships from the inside. Love, by nature, is about freedom, trust, and choice, yet many people try to control the other person's thoughts, actions, and even dreams. At first, this control may appear as care or concern, but slowly it becomes a cage that restricts individuality. A partner who feels controlled eventually loses their sense of self, and with it, their desire to stay. Control is rooted in fear, the fear of losing, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being enough. But love cannot coexist with fear, because fear seeks to cage while love seeks to liberate. The more control is applied, the more distance is created. True connection cannot survive under chains. When comparison and control combine, they create an environment where love feels conditional. A partner begins to feel that they must constantly prove their worth or change themselves to be accepted. This creates endless anxiety because no one can sustain perfection forever. The beauty of love lies in being valued as you are, not in meeting endless requirements. When someone feels that their individuality is being erased, they stop showing their true self. Back, the relationship then becomes a performance instead of a partnership, where one acts out of fear instead of freedom. And once authenticity disappears, so does intimacy. No one can feel deeply connected while hiding behind a mask. Comparison often stems from personal insecurity, not from flaws in the partner. When someone feels inadequate within themselves, back, they project that onto the relationship by pointing out what's missing. Instead of addressing their own wounds, they demand perfection from the other person. Back, this not only hurts the partner, but also leaves the comparer perpetually dissatisfied because no one can heal an internal void by changing another person. The cycle of comparison is endless. Once one standard is met, another is created. It traps both people in a race that has no finish line. Gratitude and acceptance are the only ways to break this cycle and restore harmony. Control also thrives on insecurity, back, and it often disguises itself as love. It may sound like, I just want what's best for you, or I'm trying to protect us, but underneath lies a need for dominance. Over time, back, controlled partners lose their independence, their voice, and even their identity. This creates silent resentment that grows stronger every day. A person may comply outwardly, but inwardly feels suffocated. Take it back. No one can be truly happy while living under someone else's rules and conditions. Relationships thrive when both partners feel safe to be themselves, not when they are molded into someone else's vision of perfection. Freedom is not a threat to love. It is the soil where love grows deepest. The tragedy of comparison is that it blinds people to what they already have. By constantly looking outward, back, they fail to notice the beauty and strengths present in their own partner. What once felt like blessings now seem like shortcomings simply because the focus is elsewhere. Back, the unique qualities that attracted them in the beginning are overshadowed by unrealistic expectations. This blindness prevents gratitude from flourishing, and gratitude is the foundation of lasting love. When comparison takes over, even the most loving gestures are overlooked. It is impossible to appreciate the present when the mind is always wishing for something different. Back, the tragedy of control is that it destroys trust. Trust is built on the belief that the other person respects your autonomy, values your judgment, and supports your individuality. When control replaces trust, back, Suspicion and resistance take over. Every decision becomes a battle, and every disagreement feels like a war for independence. Over time, the controlled partner may pull away emotionally or physically just to reclaim their freedom. This withdrawal is often misunderstood as betrayal, when in reality it is a desperate attempt to breathe. Trust can only exist where freedom exists, and without trust, love cannot survive. Relationships require balance between closeness and individuality, unity and independence. Comparison disturbs this balance by demanding that one partner constantly match up to others. Control disrupts it by removing the space for individuality altogether. Both rob the relationship of equality, turning into a power struggle instead of a partnership. Equality does not mean sameness, it means valuing differences and respecting boundaries. When two people can celebrate each other's uniqueness without trying to change or compare, love becomes sustainable. Balance is not found in control but in harmony, where two people choose each other freely every day. Breaking free from these toxic patterns requires awareness and humility. It means acknowledging the harm that comparison and control cause and choosing gratitude and trust instead. Gratitude shifts the focus from what is lacking to what is present, creating appreciation instead of criticism. Trust shifts the focus from fear to freedom, allowing both partners to feel secure in their individuality. These shifts may seem small, but they transform the entire dynamic of a relationship. They replace pressure with peace, fear with freedom, and insecurity with intimacy. The choice to let go of control and comparison is the choice to let love breathe again. In the end, love does not demand perfection or obedience. It thrives on acceptance and respect. When people let go of comparison, they learn to see their partner with fresh eyes, appreciating the beauty of their uniqueness. When they release control, they create space for authenticity, growth, and genuine connection. A relationship built on freedom and gratitude becomes a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. It becomes a place where both partners can flourish, not just survive. The greatest act of love is not to change someone, but to accept them fully and walk beside them as they grow. That is where real connection lives, and that is where love endures. The deepest form of abandonment is not when someone leaves physically, but when they stay without being emotionally present. Many relationships suffer not because of betrayal or conflict, but because one partner slowly withdraws their energy, attention, and heart. Being in the same room yet feeling unseen creates a loneliness sharper than actual distance. People often underestimate how damaging emotional neglect can be, thinking that as long as they provide, show up, or stay low, the relationship should survive. But love cannot be sustained by presence of the body alone. It requires the presence of the soul. When one feels ignored or dismissed, they begin to question their worth. Emotional absence chips away at intimacy until partners feel like strangers. A home full of silence can be more painful than an empty one. Neglect often begins subtly, hidden beneath the weight of routines and responsibilities. Long work hours, endless distractions, and constant business slowly replace the small moments of connection that once held the bond together. Conversations become shallow, interactions turn mechanical, and affection fades into routine gestures. What begins as, "I'm just tired today," becomes a habit of disconnection that lasts for weeks, months, or even years. Over time, the relationship loses its warmth and the emotional bond that once felt unshakable begins to weaken. The absence of nurturing communication leaves partners starved for closeness. When small acts of presence disappear, love no longer feels alive. It feels like obligation. Emotional presence means truly showing up, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. It is the ability to listen with full attention, to look into someone's eyes and acknowledge their feelings, to celebrate their joys and carry their burdens with empathy. Many confuse physical availability with presence, but the two are vastly different. Sitting next to someone while scrolling on a phone is not connection. Nodding absentmindedly while they speak is not listening. True presence is intentional. It requires effort, focus, and the willingness to put aside distractions. Without it, even frequent interactions feel hollow. With it, even short moments create lasting intimacy. The pain of emotional neglect lies in invisibility. To be in love but feel invisible is one of the deepest human wounds. When a partner stops noticing, appreciating, or acknowledging, the other begins to feel like they do not matter. This invisible suffering often goes unnoticed because the neglected partner continues to function outwardly while dying inwardly. They may stop speaking up, stop asking for attention, or stop sharing their feelings, not because they no longer care, because they feel unheard. Silence replaces vulnerability and distance grows. A relationship without emotional presence feels like a performance where one plays their role but no longer feels alive in it. Neglect is not always intentional, but its effects are always damaging. Sometimes people believe providing financially or handling responsibilities is enough to keep love alive. But while stability is important, it cannot replace emotional nourishment. Love is not sustained by what you do for someone, but by how connected they feel with you. A partner can be surrounded by comfort, yet still feel lonely if emotional presence is missing. The absence of true connection leaves wounds that no material gift can heal. People do not just want a partner who stays, they want a partner who truly sees them. Without this recognition, the relationship becomes an arrangement instead of a union. The cycle of neglect often deepens when both partners withdraw. One stops trying because they feel unnoticed, back, and the other assumes silence means everything is fine. But silence is rarely peace. It is usually distance. Without emotional check-in, small issues grow into quiet resentments, and resentments turn into disconnection. Once disconnection sets in, even physical intimacy becomes strained because closeness cannot survive without emotional safety. Affection begins to feel mechanical, words lose their warmth, and laughter becomes rare. That relationships rarely end because of one big event, they often end because of 1,000 small moments where presence was missing. Being emotionally present requires vulnerability and effort, which is why many avoid it. Back. It means putting aside pride to truly ask, how are you? And being ready to hear the raw answer. It means pausing to comfort instead of dismissing, to engage instead of escaping. Many fear emotional depth because it forces them to confront feelings they would rather ignore. But avoiding vulnerability only builds walls, and those walls keep love out. Choosing to stay emotionally closed may feel safe, but it slowly drains the connection that makes relationships meaningful. Presence demands courage, but without it, love cannot thrive. Technology has amplified the challenge of presence in modern relationships. Couples may spend hours together yet remain worlds apart, each lost in digital worlds while neglecting the person beside them. Phones, television, and constant distractions have replaced deep conversations and shared silence. The illusion of togetherness hides the reality of disconnection. Genuine presence requires more than proximity. It requires attention, intention, and investment. A distracted mind cannot build intimacy. Creating sacred spaces without technology where connection can breathe back is essential to keeping love alive. Presence is not measured in hours, but in the quality of undivided moments. Emotional neglect often leads to dangerous patterns if left unaddressed. When someone feels unseen, they may seek validation elsewhere, not always in the form of betrayal, but through work, friendships, or distractions that pull them further away. The relationship then becomes a place of emptiness rather than fulfillment, and distance grows silently. What once was a source of joy becomes a source of loneliness. Preventing this requires deliberate action, checking in daily, expressing gratitude, showing affection, and creating space for emotional honesty. Neglect may be unintentional, but healing requires intentional presence. Without it, love withers under the weight of absence. The gift of emotional presence cannot be replaced by anything else. To look at someone and truly see them, to hear not just their words, but their silence, to hold space for their emotions without judgment. These are the acts that keep relationships alive. Presence is love in its purest form because it says, you matter to me right here, right now. When partners commit to presence, they create safety, intimacy, and trust that no external challenge can break. Emotional presence does not require perfection, only effort and sincerity. The small moments of attention are the ones that build lasting connection, and without them, even the strongest relationships lose their spark. The first step toward healing a broken relationship is awareness. Without awareness, toxic patterns repeat endlessly, leaving both partners trapped in cycles of blame and pain. Many people avoid looking at the reality of their situation because it is uncomfortable, but denial never brings growth. Awareness shines a light on hidden wounds and reveals what must change. It is not about pointing fingers, but about seeing clearly what behaviors are harming the bond. Recognizing the problem is half the solution because what remains unseen cannot be healed. Awareness brings honesty, and honesty brings opportunity. The moment you choose to acknowledge the truth, you take back power from the cycle. Awareness alone, however, is not enough. It must be followed by action. Many people understand what is wrong in their relationship, yet remain stuck in old habits. Get back. They say they want change, but continue with the same silence, the same control, the same neglect. Action requires courage because it forces you to step outside your comfort zone. It means unlearning years of defensive patterns and learning new ways of showing up. Change does not happen overnight, but every intentional action builds momentum. Love is not saved by promises. It is saved by consistent effort. Awareness opens the door, but action is the key that unlocks transformation. Taking responsibility is a crucial part of this process. It is easy to blame the other person for everything that has gone wrong, but blame only deepens division. Responsibility means asking yourself, what part have I played in this dynamic? It requires humility to admit where you have failed to communicate, where you have controlled, or where you have neglected presence. Responsibility is not about guilt. It is about empowerment. The moment you accept your role, you gain the power to change it. When both partners commit to this self-reflection, healing becomes possible. Without responsibility, the cycle continues and love remains trapped in toxicity. Breaking toxic cycles also requires replacing destructive habits with healthier ones. If silence has been the norm, it must be replaced with honest conversations. If control has ruled the relationship, it must be replaced with trust and freedom. If neglect has crept in, it must be replaced with intentional presence. Habits are built through repetition, and healing is no different. Small, consistent shifts in behavior create lasting change over time. It is not the grand gestures that restore love, but the daily acts of kindness, empathy, and attention. Change requires practice, patience, and persistence. The patterns that took years to form cannot vanish in a single day, but they can be rewritten. Forgiveness is another essential step, both for yourself and your partner. Without forgiveness, the past continues to cast a shadow over the present. Holding on to resentment blocks the flow of love and prevents genuine healing. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing hurtful behavior. It means releasing the hold it has on your heart. It creates space for growth instead of keeping you tied to old wounds. Forgiving yourself is equally important because guilt can paralyze progress. When both partners embrace forgiveness, they create a clean slate on which to rebuild. Without forgiveness, even the best intentions remain weighed down by the past. Patience is the glue that holds the healing process together. Many people expect instant transformation and give up when results are slow. But love, like in any living thing, takes time to grow back after it has been damaged. Patience means understanding that progress will come with setbacks, and that change requires endurance. It is about celebrating small improvements rather than demanding perfection. Relationships are not linear. They move through seasons of growth, struggle, and renewal. Patience allows you to stay committed even when the journey feels difficult. Without patience, frustration takes over and pushes the bond back into old patterns. Healing is a marathon, not a sprint. Consistency is where trust is rebuilt. Grand declarations and occasional efforts may impress for a moment, but only consistent behavior rebuilds confidence. When someone sees that words are matched by actions day after day, hope begins to return. Consistency proves commitment, showing that the change is not temporary but real. Without consistency, promises become empty, and the cycle repeats. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it takes steady effort to restore. Every consistent action is a brick that rebuilds the foundation of love. Over time, consistency transforms doubt into belief and wounds into strength. The journey of breaking toxic patterns also requires empathy. But empathy is the ability to step into the other person's world and see life through their eyes. It softens judgment, reduces defensiveness, and creates space for compassion. Without empathy, conversations turn into battles where each person fights to be right instead of seeking to understand. Empathy transforms those battles into bridges where connection becomes possible again. It reminds us that behind every hurtful action lies fear, pain, or insecurity. With empathy, healing becomes a shared journey instead of a lonely struggle. It is not about fixing the other person, but about walking beside them with understanding. Ultimately, breaking cycles is about choosing love over ego. Ego seeks to win arguments, to control outcomes, to protect pride. Love seeks to understand, to forgive, to grow together. Every moment in a relationship offers a choice to feed the ego or to nurture love. Toxic patterns survive when ego is in control. But they dissolve when love takes the lead. Choosing love requires humility, courage, and vulnerability, but it is the only path to true connection. A relationship guided by love becomes resilient, capable of weathering storms and rising stronger after every challenge. Ego divides, but love unites. The ending of toxic cycles is not just about saving a relationship. It is about transforming it into something stronger than before. Every struggle faced together becomes a lesson. Every wound healed becomes a source of wisdom. Love that has endured storms is deeper than love that has never been tested. By choosing awareness, action, responsibility, forgiveness, patience, and empathy, partners create a bond that is unbreakable. The past may have been painful, but the future can be rewritten with intention. Love does not fade when patterns are broken. It thrives, flourishes, and becomes the safe haven it was always meant to be. This is how love survives, and this is how it lasts. If this touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and join our soul family.